Welcome to Here to Initiate, a podcast for manifestors, leaning on the concept of human design. We manifestors are 9% of the population, here to initiate, and it is time for us to rise. In this podcast, I, your host, Julia, want to bring a missing link to the marketplace. Having been a mentor and coach since 2018 and learning more and more about being a manifestor myself, I now, with this podcast, want to specifically support manifestors. With my brand Luxury Goddess, which is all about female remembrance, embodiment, and empowerment, I have served thousands of women already, and I now want to specifically support manifestors as well. I invite you to fully step into your peaceful, powerful self as a manifestor. Let's become who we came here to be, shall we? Welcome to this episode about anger. This is the first episode all about anger, and we will go deeper into this, I feel, inside this podcast, but this is going to be an introductory episode around anger. Again, I'm not a human design expert. I am a manifestor, so I mostly speak about my experience and my exploration about being a manifestor so that it inspires you to try out whatever resonates, right? Or try out whatever idea comes to your mind while listening. So here we go. The biggest piece around anger for me, again, is conditioning. Thinking I'm not allowed to speak my mind, being so scared to speak my mind, because I was scared of the reaction the other would have, again, because of conditioning. So being used to being the good girl and the people-pleasing girl that I did not dare to say what I wanted to say, and therefore anger built up inside of me. And so for me, what I found the biggest piece around anger was the suppression of what I had to say. Because obviously as a manifestor, we suppress what we have to say, then it's game over, right? Because it wants to be spoken. Literally, we're here to inform. We are here to say what we want to say. Now, of course, whatever really feels clear inside of us, right? And not from, conditioning and patterns and wounding, like not speaking from wounding. That's not what wants to be said. But all emotions want to be expressed, and ideas and everything that's clear. And so of course, that is or for me at least, it was the biggest trigger of anger. So inviting you to look there. The second thing for me was, again, conditioning around this piece of feeling responsible. So especially as women, we have, but it could be the same for men, and that is oftentimes a wound we have with a mother. So we have this wounding of having to save the mother, feeling responsible for our mother, feeling responsible for the women inside our family. And so feeling like as a girl, or even as a man, feeling like we have to save our mom, we have to entertain them, make them happy, but overall feel responsible for their emotions and for their state of being. So whenever we do feel that, and I just invite you to have that check in with yourself if that is a pattern that you still have, because if you do, then you will most likely try to save, or again, entertain or whatever your mom, and representing your mom, it could be anyone later on in your life. So it could be your girlfriend or boyfriend then in your relationship later, that you put that pattern on because this is how you learned to relate. We learn relationship with our parents, and so later in relationships we act the way we learned that we are safe and what our role is in relationships. So if that is something that you learned, you most likely do it in your relationship still, or did it later on in your relationship, and then you kind of like take your power to, again, help them, but it's like the savior mode. And what happens is that your system assumes the other one is powerless and you have more power, and therefore you try to save them. It's obviously not a feeling of I'm superior, I feel I'm more powerful than them. It's not a conscious feeling, but it's this unconscious, the subconscious feeling of I have to save the other to be safe. I have to save the other to feel loved, so I have to go save them. But again, the saving thing only can work if subconsciously we feel they are powerless right now, so we have to use our power to save them. Interestingly, if we do that, there's an expectation that we have subconsciously that if we feel powerless, they do the same for us. Or whenever we, want something from them, we need them to act a certain way for us. So we actually create a codependency in this way. And why I'm bringing this up in this way and really explaining it this way is because this is what I found is one of the biggest things in my past where anger came up. I felt angry when a person that is close to me had the power over my emotions, basically. And I needed them to be a certain way and they were not. And again, that's codependency. To me, that's not how it's supposed to be. Yes, of course, we're here for each other in a relationship. I want you to be happy. Of course, I'm here for you. I support you. But, I'm not going to be however you need me to be if that's not how I want to be. And I'm also not going to feel I have to be a certain way because else something happens. Like that is out of fear. And so there's a lot of deconditioning that needs to be done for as humans and especially for as manifestors so that we don't feel angry when the other is not how we expect them to be. And most of the time, just to really know the trigger, is this anger comes up when we expect them to be a certain way, and the sentence we say or feel or think is, why? I do that for you. I did that for you. I would do it for you. Like if I was you, I would do this for you right now. Or I even did it for you. Like, I can't believe you don't want to do this for me. I usually do this for you. Or I did it for you. Like, how can you not, say this or be a certain way right now? And so that is kind of the trigger moment where we can notice, oh, right, I acted a certain way because I thought I had to. And now I expect them to. And then the anger comes up. So it's actually a codependency anger, and it's the trigger of that. And what actually is really necessary for us to learn, of course, is healthy relating. So, a healthy, I wanted to say addiction, but no, that's not true. A healthy depending on each other, a healthy dependency, but not a codependency, right? Like healthily depending on each other, that's a relationship, of course, but not a codependency. That's what we actually really need to learn. And honestly, as humanity, we need to learn this because most of us learned codependency. And the next thing we really need so we feel peace instead of anger is boundaries, especially as women, but I would say all humans, again, all manifestors, really checking in with yourself. Where do you think you have to be available? And boundaries are time boundaries, space boundaries, emotional boundaries. So, it could be someone talking to you, and especially as a manifestor, again, we don't have the energy to listen to all the people all this time. And I mean, something else if you're a coach and a mentor and you love it and you decide to, and you have a great exchange for that, that's something totally different. I love that. But if I'm at a party and someone just talks and talks and talks and I didn't really decide to, just kind of stumble into the conversation, I do make sure that I check in with myself, and if it doesn't feel aligned, I say, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm noticing that I need time for myself right now, because it's a lot for me to be with so many people and listen that much. Thank you for sharing everything you shared up until this moment. And, maybe I'll see you later. Maybe I'll talk to you later. But for now, I'm going to have to take a break for myself. So I hope you can understand. And if not, that's fine as well. And then I leave the conversation. And again, in our society, that's something that's probably not so typical or known yet, but we are here as manifestors to initiate and to really bring about a new way of being, where we normalize that we say what we need to say, and where we say what we think and feel and dare to voice that and make it normal in this way. And so I encourage you in these social moments to say, excuse me for interrupting you, but this is how I'm feeling. And, sometimes you could even say, and I feel like this is what it's about. You could say, and honestly, this is what it's about. I would want for you to say what you need when you talk to me. So I say it, right? Like, I would want you to treat me this way. I would want you to tell me if rather than talking to me, you'd like to take a break. Like, I don't want you to listen half present. So, I don't want to listen half presently or being half present. So I let you know, right? So I treat you the way I would want you to treat me, honestly. And so I do. And that is a big piece for me, because I can really feel the impatience, and the anger then arises through impatience inside of me. And most of the time, from my experience, is really when people just don't stop talking, but I did not invite them to speak. And I didn't really, I didn't start the conversation, or I didn't start I didn't question, I didn't ask a question or whatever. So in these kind of moments when the other just speaks and speaks, and I feel in the moment, oh wow, I'm not really up for this right now. I'm not here for it. And these are the moments where the anger arises inside of me, and in form of impatience. And I can really feel like, oh, I need them to be done. I need them to stop talking. And I honestly, at this point, I say, excuse me for interrupting you, but this is how I honestly feel. And so, I want to treat you with respect. So rather than listening with half of my presence, I let you know that right now I don't want to speak, and I don't want to listen. So, or I don't want to listen because I might want to speak, but I don't want to listen. And I say that because it's just more important to feel peaceful. And it's what we're here for. And so I honor that, and I really say it. Okay, so these are the biggest pieces for me. Again, it's the conditioning part of, feeling I have to be a certain way, I have to people please. The second thing is the codependency part, the feeling like you're responsible for the other. And the third thing now was and is this kind of like impatience arising, or whatever, however it feels in your body, but this anger arising for me, it's the impatience feeling when people talk too long or are not invited with you and you're not really up for it. Oftentimes I make sure as well that if I'm not available, I make sure I don't really look people in the eye, or again, I use my Bluetooth or any kind of ear thingies to listen to something, right? So that way I signal that I'm not available for people. And yeah, I don't really look people in the eye because I'm a very friendly person. I usually look people in the eye. I smile. I'm that way, just how I am in my personality. So when I don't want to speak to people, I really make sure I don't really look them in the eye. I might still look friendly, obviously, I just like that. I just like when we are polite and friendly with each other. I just think it's a beautiful way of being with each other as humans. But I, again, make sure I'm a little more clear in the way what I radiate so that I'm with myself. Okay. Another thing where anger comes up for me is feeling misunderstood. And that was actually, that was my latest my latest thing of deconditioning, where I really worked on still this year to not expect a certain reaction from people. So as a manifestor, we initiate, and I'm a 5 line. So, people project onto me, but as manifestors, anyway, they do. People project onto us and they have their reaction. Now, your initiating, as I said in another episode, is successful when you clearly from clarity, from a place of clarity, inform peacefully. Your initiation is successful. Like, check, perfect, done. If people love it, if they hate it, it doesn't matter. It's none of your business. And if you want them to love it, that's conditioning, or that's the ego, because that has nothing to do with successful initiating. Same way with feeling misunderstood. Now, of course, we can make sure that we set it clearly. So you could go back to my episode about informing if you haven't listened yet, because then it could be about giving more context or just saying a few more sentences about it, and all the things I spoke about in this episode where I talked about informing and the way we can peacefully inform as manifestors. So of course that can be a piece of another person not understanding you. That is a valid piece of misunderstanding you if it's just not very clear. And again, as manifestors in our head, it's just also clear, and we're like, why don't you get it? As a co-manifestor, you'd be like, I get it, right? But others are like, I don't know what you're saying. I really have no clue. Bye. It's weird. Right. So that could be something that we can do. But other than that, if they're not confused and they don't have question marks, but rather judge what you said, then I just really learned to discern. I really learned to not take it personally and not even bother, honestly. Because if someone doesn't understand me, I mean, that's part of being a manifestor. So that was one of the biggest things for me in my past, because I just really wanted to be liked. Obviously, as a good girl, as a people pleaser, of course you want to be liked. So when you feel misunderstood, it brings up anger, because it brings up all the childhood wounding, right? It brings up the childhood wounding of course I'm misunderstood, people don't get me, of course, like the poor girl. And I did my biggest work around this, and even up until this point, or in this year still, because like that is really something I had to let go of, because honestly, no one is liked by everyone. So not even Britney Spears, or I don't know, like someone like a little B character, a little cartoon character. Not even everyone likes Cinderella or Ariel, so we don't have to try. We don't even have to try, So, and especially as a manifestor, not everyone is going to like this revolutionary energy that we bring about ourselves. Not everyone's going to like the edgy ideas you have, because they're triggering and activating energy inside of people. I mean, we initiate if we want to or not. And that is oftentimes an energy in people that stirs up stuff. It stirs up emotion. There's triggers, there's activation. So we really have to befriend that misunderstanding can be a part of it. And what really helped me here is assuming that people understand me. So with this podcast, with all of my work, I just assume that you understand me. So even, English isn't my first language. It's my second language. And sometimes I don't have the word, right? Every time I say, thingy, that's when I don't have the word. But I assume you know what I mean with the energy that you feel from me, because energy and vibration speaks louder than words anyway. So I trust that you understand me, even though I don't have all the words, and even though I can't express the same way as I can in my mother tongue German. I just assume you understand me if it's for you. And if you don't understand me, if there's someone who doesn't understand me, I just assume it's not for them, and that's perfect. So just to make peace with people misunderstanding me, and that way I don't feel anger. I only feel anger, again, if I expect them to, if I feel a certain entanglement, right? A certain codependency, like a certain addiction around validation, around people understanding me. Again, that would be about conditioning, so we want to look at that. And the last thing I want to speak about today is the anger that I feel kind of like explosively. And this is the healthiest anger that I found as a manifestor in my own body. Again, talking about my experience most of the time in this podcast, and it's around, most of the time for me, it comes up with my son. So I let him know before around my boundaries, I'm taking my time right now, dad is there for you, blah, blah, blah. And then if he like storms into the room and is really loud and I'm very immersed in, say, recording this right here, there might be an explosive anger moment of like, oh, wow, like I really feel it in my body. Like I did not expect for you to do this. And I clearly said, I don't want this, and you agreed. So like this is a violation right now of our agreement, and I can feel it in my body. And it's this explosive reaction of anger, but I'm not screaming. I'm not, turning against him or like at him, not going at him. And that is something you have to work on if that is how it appears for you. And so I feel in my body, it's allowed to be there. I understand it's a healthy reaction because, someone is being intrusive. But we have to make sure we don't explode onto people in a way where it feels violent for them. Violent for them, yes. So that is the only moment that I still feel anger currently. I think for a month I have not felt anger, to be very honest. I have felt very aligned in the past weeks and month. I have just been immersed here on the jungle mountain, very supported by my husband, very clear about what I want and need, how to spend my time, just very intentional. And prioritizing peace. As I've been starting this podcast and speaking with you each week, of course, that's a contemplation for myself as well. And I put it all into action myself. And the only moments where I felt anger was really when there was moments with my son, actually, where I was laying in bed and he was kind of like jumping on me and just hurt, right? So there was just a little explosion of anger because he was crossing that boundary, right? Just hurting me, of course. And that is something that appears. And I just want you to know and really make sure you remember or know or feel reminded right now that is healthy. It's important just how we go about it. So sometimes when my like when I lay in bed and I just take a break and my son kind of like hurts me by accident, of course, right? Like goes onto my leg and didn't notice my leg was there. Then, I might say, ow, very loudly. And then he is surprised by that. But I can't change that in that moment because it's my body reaction. And I don't think it's wrong when my son then is surprised by that, because this is how he learns too. And this is how he understands, people have reactions as well. And we all have to get to have reactions. If he then has to cry because he was so surprised and maybe a little scared by my reaction, then I am there for him as well. And then he gets to feel his feelings. And I think that is all just very natural. So no suppression of any emotion or sensation, but rather everyone gets to feel their feelings. And this way we flow as humans in relationship, and we learn healthy relationship in this way as well. So this was an introductory episode, meaning that we can go deeper into this. If you have questions, if there's something you want to share, if there's something you want me to speak on, let me know, right? Also, the episodes up until this point, if there's something else you want me to speak on, or you have a question, let me know so we can deepen all these different parts of being a manifestor. But this is the first episode about anger. I wanted to record. These are all the things I wanted to say, and I deeply hope that this served you. And yeah, let me know if there's any feedback you have, any questions or anything you want me to know, and I will catch you next time if you want to. This was today's episode for you as a manifestor in the concept of human design. I hope this episode and whole podcast serves you. And if it does, I invite you to leave a 5-star review on iTunes or rank the podcast 5 stars on whatever platform you listened, and or subscribe, comment, or share, whatever feels right to you, so we can spread this for all manifestors to hear and rise as one. Thank you from one manifestor to another. I deeply appreciate you rising, and I look forward to catch you next time.
Always remember, you are here to feel peaceful. You are here to initiate. Remember to always inform peacefully. You are so powerful. I see you. You've got this. From one manifestor to another, yours, Julia.